Hello everyone, I'm Rubie and welcome to my channel. This is technically my first video, but I was supposed to actually post it during November. Oops, it is now February when I am recording this. However, other than my very poor time management skills, today I'm planning to draw some characters from one of my stories called The Midnight Circus. In this specific video, I'll be drawing the main four characters, as well as having a bonus speed paint for one of them, and some old and new drawings of the characters as well during the video. So sit back, relax, get a snack, draw, or even have this video go on in the background while I tell you about these four characters. The first character I'm going to be talking about is Casey. I think she's actually one of the first characters I've made for the story back in middle school, so there is a lot of iterations of her. And she's probably one of my most drawn OCs, I think. Since I created her during middle school, her lore, design, and even story in general has changed a lot. So let's discuss her importance to the story and the main cast. Casey is one of the main performers in this circus troupe. Even though assigned a clown, Casey always tries to keep others guessing with the things she does in the circus. One performance, she could be doing magic tricks with Serena, another one of the main characters, and the next doing trapeze acts with her other clown acquaintance, Jacob, who isn't the best at those sort of tricks. Casey is an energetic but sweet person overall. She always tries to make others smile and brighten people's day. She likes most of the people in the circus, but has some interesting history and beef with the ringleader, Baron. More recently, however, within the year, other members of the circus have been feeling pretty distant from her, except her best friends Ink and Serena. She has been feeling off lately as well, but even more recently when talking with Ink and Serena privately, she saw someone else watching them. But even more weirdly, she knew his name, Caleb. She even saw him during their performance that night. That could have just been a coincidence, right? Around a week or two later, he showed up at the circus, physically, actually there. And he seems to want to cover what's actually going on in there. Maybe he can help Casey figure out things about herself, both her past and what's happening with her now. Casey actually was one of the first performers in the circus with the original ringleader, who I don't have a name for yet, but he's Aaron's uncle. She has been performing ever since she was little, she even helped build up the circus in the beginning. Casey has always seen the ringleader as a father figure, since with her original family, let's just say they weren't the best people. In the drawing, I drew her with a huge hammer, mainly because in most of her old iterations, she had one and I actually love it a lot. And there's also a lot more I can say about her character, but I might want to save it for a future video because spoilers. Some random facts about her is that she loves to dance, especially with Ink. She loves watching shows that Caleb shows her, and is extremely overprotective of her friends and other members of the circus. The next person of the group I'll be talking about is Ink, the most recent character I made for this group. Ink is probably one of my more interesting OCs in the main characters because he's actually a creature called a Nightwalker. Basically, Nightwalkers are these creatures that are stronger. But the stronger they are, the less kind of form they have, I guess. It's kind of changed a bit. The lore kind of changed a bit since I made this, so yeah. But for now, commonly pure Nightwalkers will take forms of animals. Well, more rarely, they'll have more like a figure-like or shadow shape kind of form that almost looks humanoid, but those are like the more formless ones, I guess. Pure Nightwalkers usually never appear as a human, except for Ink. So how does Ink have a set more human-like form? Well, by how Nightwalkers actually work. In this world, Nightwalkers were creatures known from ancient times and are seen as a myth now. Basically, they make deals with humans which come at a price, like giving valuable possessions, sacrifices, or even something that the Nightwalker themselves want. the deals can range from wanting wealth to even becoming a Nightwalker, which I'll probably expand on in a future video. They have many other different abilities as well, which I'll explain after talking more about Ink. Interestingly enough, Ink was actually a formless Nightwalker before he came to the circus. He actually made a deal with the original Ling Reader, who Aaron's uncle, and his uncle wanted to basically reach other people with his circus, but wanted to keep the members safe within it, since some were actually people who became Nightwalkers after a deal. And Ink happily agreed to it, but in return he wanted to become human, or at least gain the form of a human, because of more lore that I can't share yet. I think what would be interesting is if agreeing to allow a Nightwalker to gain form, it could be somewhat dangerous for the Nightwalker themselves and not the person making the deal. So basically how I see it is, for Ink, I could see his abilities growing stronger, since pure Nightwalkers sort of age like humans, except they just have a way longer lifespan. So as they age, they get stronger, and during the time of the deal, he's around 11 years old. So Ink powers are getting stronger, and since he has a more human outlook on things, he's worried about it, until the ringleader introduces Ink to Casey, who is the same age as him during this time, which Ink is instantly he's just really excited in a way, or at the same time because this is his first friend as a human of sorts, and he just wants to protect her and stuff. I think that'd be sweet. And so to explain his abilities quickly, since I have a bit more to say about him now, since the story takes place when Casey and Ink are 16, the main one is that he can manipulate people's dreams, where the circus can be in a set location, but he can make people see them perform, so they don't remember when they wake up, like most dreams. He can also make deals with others, obviously, and he can also mimic any sound or voice, and even shapeshift, which he doesn't usually do because, he doesn't usually shapeshift because he likes the form he has, but he does definitely mimic people's voices. There's also a couple of other things about his abilities that I'm trying to figure out for him, but those are the main ones for now. Okay, now when the story takes place, a lot of things have happened. Aaron had become the ringleader about a year or two back. Casey and Ink had become partners in more of a romantic way, and now Ink can't really use his own voice because of someone, won't say who though, but can still mimic others. He preferably uses sign language to communicate, since he doesn't really like using other people's voices to talk, except when he's pulling one of his many pranks on the circus members. But one performance, he sees Caleb, and he actually knows him from before he actually came to the circus. And eventually, Caleb actually shows up to the circus, and Ink is happy, but at the same time kind of iffy about Caleb, wondering if he's changed ever since all those years ago. Okay, so some random facts about Ink is that he actually loves to bake and cook. He likes to dance with Casey, and he likes to pull pranks. And he's definitely the type to have to want a bunch of exotic pets when he discovers their existence. Yeah, that's pretty much all about Ink. So I've brought up Caleb twice now, and I haven't even shown him. Ironically, he's actually the main character of the story, even though I hadn't fully figured out his design until more recently, which is kind of funny, especially before he goes to the circus, because that one actually took me a while. Compared to the other characters, he hasn't changed that much compared to older iterations, but I do actually like his character a lot more now, since I've had him a lot more fleshed out than originally, and he has a better goal to work towards as well. So Caleb King is pretty much well known in his town. It doesn't help that his parents are basically famous there and pretty well off, especially since his father is like a big CEO of a company within the city, and that Caleb is pretty much known as like their perfect son who's almost finished with high school, since he's going into his senior year and eventually will take over the company, probably once he graduates. But Caleb, however, doesn't really want to go into that, especially just like he doesn't really have that great of a relationship with his parents, especially since he used to have a younger sister, Cassia, who ran away, but everybody else thinks that she just went missing. So when Caleb was younger, he was a bit more quiet and more obedient child, and just overall was pretty lonely, other than being around his younger sister during that time. But he actually can, like, he can actually see nightwalkers, which I think is interesting. Usually there has to be some sort of condition to be able to see nightwalkers, but Caleb could just see them regularly. And that's how he actually met Ink during that time. Caleb was actually able to teach Ink a couple things during that time, as well as the two of them developing a pretty strong friendship. But with his family life, Caleb really cared about his younger sister as well, and like compared to him, like Cassia was like the polar opposite to him, being like very like outgoing and like pretty loud, and even was a little sassy too. And his parents weren't too fond of her because of that. She was the type of person to go out and get her hands dirty, which was the complete opposite of what their parents wanted. And let's just say their parents didn't deal with their normal kid behaviors in a good way. Caleb was often there to take blows for his sister, but every time he did, Cassia felt more guilty until she ran away, claiming it was so that Caleb could be safer, seeing that him getting hurt was mainly because of her. This broke his heart, and he'd been distant toward others ever since, except Ink, who at that time was like kind of still like trying to understand like human emotions and stuff. And then eventually Caleb asked him if like, because he couldn't keep Ink around all the time, and especially since his parents wanted to send him actually to a school so that he wouldn't get as lonely, or to use that as an excuse to not deal with him as much. But he basically kind of had to ask him to like if he could find his sister and just basically take care of her, and he may or may not have. So that's like Caleb and Ink's relationship. But now, fast forward to the beginning of the story, where he's a senior in high school. He actually does have two friends, Polly and Sean, who care for him probably more than probably the most than any other person. He had met them his freshman year of high school, and he was finally this was during the time when he was finally allowed to go to a public/private school. I haven't really decided, but I'm leaning more towards a private school, since I feel like his parents would be like, no, we're not sending you to public school. But he was mainly homeschooled most of his life before, so he didn't really make too much friends until now. Since it's his senior year, Caleb's been just pretty bummed about it, since it's his last year he'll be with his friends, because after he graduates, he knows his father will definitely try to make him work for his company, which is like cough cough, controlling parent cough. Because of this, Caleb has never really fully found what he's passionate about. Even though people see him as the perfect boy or whatever, he is actually quite rebellious towards his parents, where he sometimes even skips out on certain things he's supposed to be doing. And more recently within the story, he skipped out on an interview with his parents, and they were pretty furious about it. I think before he goes to the circus, Caleb is a pretty distant person, especially since going to school, students will try to take pictures of him, or even with him without him knowing. And the only reason why he actually likes going to school is because he's able to be with Holly and Sean, and he can get away from his parents. And during school, however, he actually fell asleep during class and woke up in a weird circus without his voice. Like any horror movie protagonist, he explores the circus, not caring about his safety. He proceeds to walk into the circus tent and sees three figures talking together, with one person, specifically a clown girl, catching his eye. Sound familiar? Anyways, he wakes back up due to his teacher waking him, gaining attention on his first day back at school. Great. Basically, when he goes to sleep that night after the long day, he has a dream about the circus again. But this time, there's a performance with the clown girl, and this time he notices a person dressed in only black and white who spoke in his voice, or mimics his voice. Throughout the rest of the week, he kept seeing that clown girl whenever he walked around the school, only to turn around to see that she wasn't even there, just another student. However, one day, he sees her at lunch and just pretty much crashes out, wanting her to leave him alone and stuff like that. Throughout that week, he'd been pretty stressed and just overall done with everything, a lot with his parents and just personal issues as well. But once he actually sees her, he realized he yelled at a random girl who was now in tears, and the whole lunchroom is now whispering about him, probably stuff like knowing that he was just a spoiled kid that acts nice, or something along those lines. And Caleb just runs out of there, and his friends try to catch up, but he decides to just go home early, something that we never choose to do on the regular basis. I think what would happen afterwards is that Holly and Sean would try to go over to his house to check on him, even though they've never been to his house personally because of his parents, and actually get stopped by his parents, and who would get mad at Caleb because he's hanging out with these two kids at school that they just don't they don't know and they don't approve of, I guess. And basically just take away all his communications with them and forbidding him to ever go see them again during school, even after school as well. And this breaks Caleb mentally, and just breaks him, as not only the only place that he gets a break from his parents is basically shutting him now, but now also the only people keeping him going are not allowed to see him anymore. It's now midnight and Caleb is still awake in his bed. He feels nothing, he wants nothing, until there's something colorful that catches his eyes. It's that clown girl again. He would probably ask, "Haven't you done enough?" But instead of replying, it almost seemed like she wanted him to follow her. Curiosity gets the better of him and he follows her blindly, using the window of his room to sneak out of the house. After a while of walking, he ends up in a vast forest, but he still follows the blur of light ahead of him until he eventually makes it. A huge, bright, and colorful circus stands before him. There are a bunch of carnival games around the place, but in the middle was the huge circus tent in his dreams. The circus is so interesting with the people in it, he even joins it as a trapezist. However, there are many secrets that are buried deep within the place, especially with Casey, Ink, and even Serena, someone he's pretty fond with within the circus, and he plans to uncover them. Okay, so some random facts about Caleb is that he loves indie and rock music. He loves doing random active things, especially climbing random stuff, and he loves playing random card games. Okay, that one was pretty long, but we still have one person in the main cast, Serena the Magician. Out of the main cast, she was the hardest to design. I always imagined her whenever I first created her back in middle school, was that she was a rabbit magician, since, magicians pull rabbits out of their hats and stuff like that. Her character also went through a lot of changes throughout the years. Originally, she and Casey actually had a rivalry within the circus, but I didn't really enjoy it for both their sakes, because I just didn't really enjoy how their characters clashed or how their characters acted towards each other. But I also wanted to do a lot more with her character. First things first, why does Serena have rabbit features? A simple answer for that is because of a Nightwalker. Like I said before, Nightwalkers commonly take shape as animals, and they commonly make deals with humans at a price. Serena, in this case, was the price, cursing her with the rabbit features, since the Nightwalker took the shape of a rabbit, but also giving her abilities of her own. Eventually, she ran away from home and ended up at the circus where she met Casey. The girl instantly took Serena in as her best friend, even though Casey is 2 years younger than her. Casey was the first person to treat her like an actual person rather than a tool. Later, when Ink showed up at the circus, she saw him more like a little brother. She even helped him with Casey when he got older. Their sibling dynamic throughout the series is pretty funny, with Ink being the classic younger brother annoying his older sister, but overall, they both generally care about each other. For the role she plays in the circus, she's a magician, performing tricks with the abilities she gained from the Nightwalker. She hasn't been enjoying the circus recently, however, because of certain people making her feel uncomfortable, especially Aaron, the ringleader. However, when Caleb joins the circus, she at first keeps her distance from him, even with all the good things Casey said about him. It wasn't until she actually spent time with him that she actually genuinely felt more comfortable around him and also really enjoyed his company. And the two of them also might catch feelings for one another, wink wink. But I honestly just like shipping the two of them, and their relationship is pretty cute and sweet and wholesome. I just like it. Out of the four of them, she's probably the most level-headed and calm. She definitely makes sure that Casey doesn't do anything stupid or get into fights with other members of the circus. Don't get me wrong, Casey is a sweet and sociable person, but she does have a bit of a temper if you push her too far. So Serena has to make sure that she doesn't go and fight someone. Some random facts about her is she's actually the oldest of the group, being 18. Just like a month or two older than Caleb. She's really bad at baking, but is okay at cooking. She definitely has burned a couple things on accident, which Ink has definitely made fun of her for. She is also the type to love sappy romance movies because she finds them endearing. And I can see her giving very intricate gifts for her friends that they may have mentioned like once in a conversation, making her pretty attentive. And that's all the characters. Here's both of the finished illustrations, and overall, I'm really glad that I get to share these characters with y'all. My hope is to hopefully continue posting about these characters, and even some of my other stories as well. If you guys enjoyed this, please leave a like or consider subscribing, because I would love to continue to share these stories with you all and just like have you guys able to see more of my characters or some of my same characters as well. Also, feel free to leave questions about characters or anything else in the comments, like if you guys have any stories that you want to share as well. Before I go, I want to thank you all for watching this video, and I hope to see you all later. Bye bye!